Hey, everybody. Welcome, and thank you so much. I'm so glad that you are all here. And this is the first session of the association practice that we'll be filming. So we're brand new to school, and our goal here is to ensure that association executives and board members and leaders across the country have access to the information that they need to be the most successful that they can be. And so while this is our first, we will be adding content every single week. Some of the content will be for members only, and some of the content will be completely free. And as I get to know you guys and our school group and our audience, I'll be able to add more curated information, a little bit more about what you're looking for. But I figured we'd start with a topic that I know impacts everybody across all associations and all nonprofit organizations, and really even for-profit organizations for that matter. But we're going to be speaking specifically with regards to associations and trade associations. And we're talking about change management. And when we talk about change management, it could be something as seemingly benign as changing the venue for your golf outing, right? And you think it's not going to be a big deal until you learn that one of your board members is also on the board of the country club where you had been hosting. And now all of a sudden, this easy change becomes a different kind of a challenge and a different conversation. It could be something much bigger, like a merger or a change in leadership or a change in policy that's going to impact your membership. So, when we talk about change management, so much of that is going to fall on you as the CEO and the executive director and the chapter executive, right? No one really trained you for this, and it's just kind of one of those things that you hope, or your board hopes you know instinctively. Because let's be completely honest, the change isn't the hard part. Sometimes we use that expression a lot, right? Like, oh, change is so hard, and everybody gets freaked out by the idea of change. But if we're being completely honest, change isn't the hard part. The hard part is the mixed signals that you're receiving as a leader when you're changing something within the organization, right? The hard part is the sidebar conversations, the whispers like this in the board meetings, or sometimes it's the conversations that happen in the parking lot after the board meeting while you're still cleaning up and you're not privy to what's happening down there. Or the moments where we all agreed, but not really, right? And you, as the CEO, end up right in the middle of all of it. And you're trying to balance this board member's interests against this board member's interests against the interests of the association, and you get stuck in the middle, right? So at the association practice, we have created a framework that I want to talk to you about. And we created this for association executives because most of us go in thinking about change management as being more about your communication plans. How are we going to roll this out? How are we going to set up the timeline? How are we going to communicate these changes to our members and to our stakeholders? And we don't really think about it beyond those parameters, right? But in associations, and those things matter, don't get me wrong, those things are important no matter what organization you're in. But in associations particularly, managing change is a little bit different because you're not just managing a plan, you're managing people with influence, right? You're managing a board of directors that might be very influential in the industry, in the community at large. And you're managing their egos a little bit when they don't all agree. And so this is what we're going to talk about a little bit today. And we're going to do next week, I want to do a deeper dive where we could actually do like a webinar where you guys can call in live and you can ask questions and share your own stories. And we can do a deeper dive into this framework. But right now, I just want to give you something that, from a bird's eye view, that you could still use, you could still implement today, no matter where you're at in your transition or whatever change is going on at your organization, you'll still be able to use this. So we call it the CLEAR, CLEAR path. And again, we're just going to walk you through it really quick at a kind of a higher level. CLEAR, C for clarity. Before you can manage any kind of change, big, small, somewhere in the middle, everything needs to be crystal clear, right? What is actually changing? What's not changing? And why now? Why is it important to make this change now? Because if you're not crystal clear about each of these objectives, your board isn't going to be clear either. And then that's where we start to have breakdowns in understanding and communication. L for leadership alignment. This is where, honestly, most things start to break down, right? The board approved it, so we think that we're aligned and everything's okay. But board approval is not necessarily synonymous with alignment, okay? You need to, as the executive, know who is fully on board, who still has concerns, and who is just being quiet, which is sometimes the bigger issue and the harder one to manage, right? So you need to know all of those things. That's your leadership alignment, making sure that you know what's going on so that you can do kind of the behind the scenes work to make sure that everybody is fully aligned at the end of the day. Engagement. Not everyone needs the same level of involvement. Some people are going to need to be part of the conversation, right? And others just need to be informed. If you treat everybody the same, you're going to create chaos or complete disengagement. Neither one is going to be healthy for the organization or for this transition period that you're in. A for alignment, like real alignment. This is where you're going to address the unspoken concerns, the resistance that sometimes shows up later. Like, oh, we're having these conversations and I'm a board member and I'm just sipping my coffee and staying quiet about it because I don't want to ruffle any feathers. But once everything starts to actually take shape, I'm going to start throwing up curveballs, right? So the resistance that's going to show up later, the this isn't what I thought we agreed to moments, right? We've all been there where no matter how good a note you take, no matter how many times you send an informational email or give a very solid update at a board meeting, there's always going to be someone that heard what they wanted to hear and is going to come back later and say, this isn't what I thought we agreed to. Right? These are the conversations that have to be intentional. This is where your regular updates at a board meeting are not going to be enough. You need a very intentional conversation where everybody's actually crystal clear, everybody's willing to speak their piece and move forward in a healthy direction. R for reinforcement, finally, most change efforts don't fail immediately. Right? Everything might be going great with your change in venues or the new position that you've hired for, or even a merger. Everything's going smoothly. When things fail, when transitions fail, when changes fail, it's usually several months later when people start to drift back to their old habits, right? So you need to start asking, what are we reinforcing? What are we measuring? And what are we revisiting? And you need to have these things on your calendar so that you can continually be checking in on them and making sure that you're addressing the issues before they become issues, being proactive in your change efforts and in reinforcing those change efforts. You can't just roll it out one day and expect everybody to be okay 3 months later, because people will revert back to the old way of doing things. So here's the part that I really want you to take with you. If you remember nothing else about today, because again, we're going to come back to this in a few days and we're going to do a deeper dive and you'll be able to call in and ask questions directly. If you can't call in during the scheduled time, that's okay. You can still send messages through the school portal and I will answer those. So you can ask questions of your peers that are in the group as well. But here's for now, the part that I really, really want to talk to you about and what I really want you to take home with you and write this down. Most change efforts don't fail because the strategy was wrong. The effort that you're putting forward is not failing because the strategy was wrong. It's failed because the board of directors wasn't truly aligned, because leadership didn't address their concerns early on, and everybody assumed we're good when they really weren't. That's where things fall apart. So your job as the leader of this organization is to make sure that the board is truly aligned before you move forward with any efforts of major scope. Make sure that you and your executive committee and key board members or committee members, whoever's involved in this initiative, that they're addressing concerns early on. They're not sweeping these concerns under the rug. They're not letting their egos get involved. They're addressing the concerns early on and moving forward appropriately. And that you don't have bystanders just saying, yeah, everything's fine, when it's not. So if you're in the middle of a change right now, and I'm going to assume all of you are, because no matter what you've got going on, we're always changing. We're always evolving, no matter your organization, how long you've been. I've worked for organizations that were over 100 years old, and they're constantly evolving. That's why they've lasted so long. So if you're in the middle of a change right now, here's a couple of questions I'm going to leave you with so that you can ask yourself, where do I think we're aligned, but we might not be? In other words, what am I missing? And who do I need to be talking to one-on-one? Is there a board member that's being quiet, that's not telling me the whole story? Or is there a board member that's extra vocal because they maybe have their own side agenda and you need to have a very frank conversation about that? And what hasn't been said out loud yet? What kind of conversations are we sweeping under the rug in an effort to be polite, when what we really should be doing is putting all of our cards on the table and facing things directly so that we can make this transition smooth for our members, so that our membership doesn't see the board and staff falling apart, right? Isn't that the main common goal? So I'm going to leave you guys with that information for now. If you have questions about it, please email me. If you want to see this clear path framework in writing, I'm happy to do that. I think what I'll do for the next time when we do that deep dive into this, I'll probably put together a PowerPoint for you so that you're not looking at my face the entire time, and some handouts or printables that you can take with you, that you can apply right now, or that you can even share with your board members and your staff if you find that valuable. And in the meantime, I hope that you will see me with any questions, send me an email, ask me if there's any particular content that you'd like to see. I would love to hear your feedback so that I know I'm providing you guys with information that you're going to find valuable. So thanks again for watching and being with us. I appreciate you, and I look forward to seeing you here. Thanks.